And Burke about what we can look forward to. Let's start with rugby.
Yes, rugby. Well, it's all four South African sides are involved in Super Rugby. The Lions have been involved. They thrashed the Waratahs 29-0, so they're at the top of the log, the overall standings. So they're flying. They're doing very well. However, the Hurricanes do have 2 matches in hand over them, and they've just started their Australasian tour. So they've still got to play the Reds, then they've got to play the Hurricanes, then they've got to play the Highlanders. So I think after that tour, we will see what's the state of affairs is with the Lions. But a 29-0 thrashing of the Waratahs in Sydney, in their home ground, is not a bad way to start.
Who else will have a good weekend?
Well, let's see. The Bulls should have an okay weekend. They play the Rebels. So that's not a very controversial fixture. The Sharks versus the Stormers, that could, because both of them are not doing great. So we're going to see what happens here between Durban and Cape Town. It's going to be a coastal derby. And, you know, everything's on the line for both these teams because their seasons have been stuttering big time. The Stormers thrashed, destroyed, annihilated by the Lions. The Sharks similarly so by the Bulls. So that's the state of affairs with Super Rugby at the moment.
All right, then the Nedbank Cup semi-finals of football.
Yeah, and everyone thinks it should logically be a Kaizer Chiefs Mamelodi Sundowns final, given the draw for the semi-finals. However, football, sports in general, not that simple. Kaizer Chiefs, they've got so much on the line. They need silverware this season. Perhaps silverware is not going to save their coach, Steve Compella, but it's still, they need some sort of, justification that they've achieved something this year to placate their fans, because their fans have also been very vocal about what direction this club's going in. The management's come out and said there's going to be a huge overhaul of the entire, structures from everyone, from support staff through to the players. So it's not looking good for them, and they come up against a very, very informed Free State Stars team. Obviously underdogs, but they're playing a good brand of football. They're 5th on the log, and big things happening there in Bethlehem of all places. I suppose it's just the kind of scenario where you can just put your head down and get on with the job.
So I don't follow football, but even I have heard all the talk about Arsene Wenger on the international stage finally stepping down.
Yes, the old man, he's decided, and I think it was probably his decision because Arsenal, basically, they gave him the keys to the club after what he's achieved for them, but I think even he knew that it was time to go. I will be very surprised if there were backroom rumblings and behind the scenes oustings. I don't think it was as blatant as that, but it was probably just a very polite word in the air. Can you please let us get on with things?
So what is his legacy?
Well, his legacy is that he did transform British football. British football went from being a very meat and 2 veg kind of orientated scenario with Friday night drinks and all that, to being broccoli and steamed chicken and a meticulous diet, meticulous training scenarios, all that kind of stuff. That's what Arsene Wenger brought in to British football. That's where he took Arsenal from a pub team to becoming world beaters. Yeah.
All right, good for him, I guess, even though his age keeps coming up.
It's an end of an era, and we do have to acknowledge that in sport, definitely.
So, Rafa Nadal, he's doing so well on clay courts.
Yes. No, I mean, obviously, he's just the absolute dominant force in tennis on clay, and this is going to be, he's just destroyed, or I think he's just destroyed Dominic Thiem of Austria in the quarterfinals, and he's looking for a record 11th Monte Carlo title, and that would be the most that anyone's won at any tournament ever. And that will just underline the fact that he is the absolute dominant force in clay, and he also needs this tournament to retain his _1 spot.
All right, so finally, I don't get it, but we have to talk about boxing very quickly.
No, this is huge. I mean, we've got a hugely popular boxer, Zolani Tete, in Belfast now. He's fighting in Argentine. He's got his WBO bantamweight title on the line, but Belfast is absolutely taking them to his heart. Public displays and training sessions and crowds coming out. And why can't we have this in this country for this kind of a sportsman? Because he's gone over to Northern Ireland and they've adopted him and they love him to bits. And here, perhaps in the Eastern Cape, but If he was in Johannesburg,
often
he'd be
taken for granted where you come from.
Exactly, and that's I think the lesson we learn here.
Yeah, Simon Burke, thank you very much. That was a look at your sporting weekend coming up. But everybody, news-wise, will be watching the Northwest Province. We've seen 3 days of increasingly violent protest action. SABC reporter Salwane Khakao has been monitoring the situation since this morning. And of course, the President Cyril Ramaphosa now on the ground in the Northwest Province. Salwane, what can you tell us?
Hi Francis, I can tell you that right now we are at the Ramatlabama border which links Botswana and Mahikeng. Earlier on we had reports